Hello, welcome, probably welcome, maybe welcome back if you watched my one other video that exists on this channel. I'm Amanda, and today I am going to talk about the 25 books that I would like to prioritize in 2025. Now here's the situation. Last year, I set aside 24 books that I wanted to read in 2024. And I ended up reading 50 books total in 2024. So one would assume that I definitely hit the 24 that I had prioritized as the ones I wanted to read the most. One would be wrong. I read 13 out of 24. If you happen to be pretty good at math, you might realize that that is over half. That is 54%, which someone might say, oh, that's not bad. But my brain goes 10-point grading system, A through F, that's an F, and I failed. We're gonna do things a little bit differently this year because it's probably better for my mental health if we do. So the idea was presented to me actually by my husband. We were talking about New Year's resolutions, as you do, and he sent me a video that, if I remember, I will link down below, where someone was talking about doing New Year's resolutions a little bit differently. Typically, you make a list, you write down the 10 or so things you want to accomplish, and then you get to the end of the year and you've maybe done 2 of them and you feel really bad about yourself. This person suggested that you should instead focus on smaller goals that are more achievable. And they suggested a bingo card where you could check off the different things you wanted to do. And then that way, even if you only accomplish 5 of the things, you got a bingo, and you might have accomplished 4 things. And then you realize you only have 1 more left, so you might as well do that thing to accomplish it. And that seemed like a better way to motivate myself than just having a list of books that I know I need to get to, but I get distracted by the shiny new things that I find. I felt like having a game component to it would probably be helpful in actually reading the books that I've set aside that I want to read. So that is the goal. That is what we are doing here. Today, I'm just going to kind of go through the books that are on the bingo board. I'll put the picture of what it looks like up here if you want to see what's going on. But we're just going to kind of go through each of the books and why they're on there and why I picked them and what I know about them, which is probably very minimal because I'm not big on reading synopses. So I kind of just go off of cover and vibes and what someone on BookTube has told me about the book. And that's how I decide things. Before I tell you about all of the books that are going to be prioritized on this bingo board, the rules are pretty basic. I'm going to pick a book, read it, mark it off, and when I get 5 in a row, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, then that's bingo. And I have decided for myself, as a little extra incentive, that I would like to have the ability to buy a new book every time I get bingo. Every book that's on here is a book that I physically own. I'll be holding them all up in a second. And most of them are I guess all of them are backlist now since we are in a new year. None of them are 2025 releases. Some are 2024, but some are a little more intimidating than the others. But yeah, they were randomly placed on the bingo card, so I did not have any control about where the different books sat. And I have decided that I think I'm going to alternate. So every other month, I'm going to randomly have bingo called to me. And then the next month, I can kind of see what progress I've made and where I want to try to hit next on the bingo card. So that's the idea. That's how this is going to work. So we're going to go through all of the books that are on the card and talk about them. And that way you can play along at home if you want to. I don't know. Okay, so starting off, this is my first stack of books. This is the first horizontal bingo row. First up, we have The Appeal by Janice Hallett. All I know about this is that it is a murder mystery told entirely through emails. And I love a mixed media moment like that. And I've heard really good things about this. So that's all I need to know. We have Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. This is the sequel to House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I loved House in the Cerulean Sea. I got this one for Christmas. I'm very excited about it. It has sprayed edges, which is always just a joy. And I have no idea what this is about. I just know it's a sequel to House in the Cerulean Sea, and I'm excited about it. This is a little bit of a wild card. This one is called The Listeners by Jordan Tannahill. This was one of those blind dates with a book situations, and it did come highly recommended. So I was in the bookstore browsing through the different, they write a few things about the book on the blind date with the book, like it's dystopian, it's whatever, it's sci-fi, it's fantasy, and I was between two choices based on the little keywords that they had written on there, and one of the booksellers was like, oh, I remember wrapping that one, I know what that one is, get that one. So this is the one that I picked. It is about a woman who has just had a baby and starts hearing a mysterious sound that nobody else can hear, and so is she crazy? Is the sound real? We don't know. And I was freshly postpartum, so the bookseller that recommended this to me, and I had my baby with me in the bookstore, so I don't know what I'm getting into with this one, but we shall see. This is the next one is the more intimidating side of things, because it is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I mean, oh boy, how many pages is this? Just 804 pages. I also don't know anything about this other than dragons. That's all I know. Dragons, fantasy. I've heard really good things. I've heard it's like a really intricately built world. But I'm a little scared because that's substantial. Is The Spellshop by Beth Durst. This is like a cozy fantasy romantasy where she makes jam and falls in love, and there's a talking plant, I think. Maybe. Is there a talking plant? Did I make that up? That seems... Yeah, no. Magically sentient spider plant. I remember things about synopses. Also, a moment for the sprayed edges. She's gorgeous. Okay, this next stack is quite intimidating. Oh, the first space on this one is actually 2 books. I put them together because I would like to read them back to back. Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Ninth House was on my favorites of the year, this last year, and I really enjoyed her writing in that. I've heard really good things about both of these books. I know they're YA fantasy, and I know there's like a group of thieves that are trying to work together to steal something, found family. I know it's set in the Grishaverse universe, which I have not read Shadow and Bone or any of those other ones, but I've been told you can read those kind of independently and that these are better. Also, I might pick up Shadow and Bone if I'm really feeling the vibes. So this is one space, is these 2 books together. So quite a substantial page count when you look at it that way. So I don't know why I did that to myself, but next up we have The Seventh Veil of Salome by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I adore Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I will read everything that she puts out. I have not loved her last 2 releases as much as I've loved her other stuff, so I'm really hoping this one turns it around. This one gives off very Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes. It's about a movie star in the 50s. Yep, 1950s Hollywood. So I'm excited. I think this is my vibe for sure. Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan. This is the 6th book in the Wheel of Time series. In December, I just finished The Fires of Heaven, which is the 5th book. These boys are pretty chunky. They're pretty chunky. I'm enjoying the Wheel of Time. I will say I haven't loved a book yet, but I've had a couple that I've really, really liked. And this one I'm excited about. I definitely would like to continue the series, but it is a hefty one. Next up, we have The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. This is on here because I read The Push by Ashley Audrain and thought it was phenomenal. Her writing is so good, and The Push was very like psychological, kind of horror-esque, but very literary. And I think this is very literary, but more of kind of a mystery plot to it. All I know is a kid falls out of a window, and they're trying to figure out how that happened. Was it an accident? Was it not? Etc., etc. The neighbors are involved. It's a whole messy situation. This one is my first classic entry onto here. My husband and I are working together to read 100 books bucket list off of this poster that we got off of, I think it was like Uncommon Goods or something like that. So we've been reading books together off of that poster. Even if they were ones we've read previously, we want to read them together. So 1984 by George Orwell. I definitely read this in high school, and this is one of the ones that I actually read in high school. You know, there's some that you didn't actually read. This one I actually read, and I did really enjoy it in high school. I am curious to see how it hits now. Next stack. Oh, we have another one that is on our book bucket list poster. This is The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. I know next to nothing about this. The only thing I know is I believe it follows evangelicals that are somewhere in Africa. They are in the Belgian Congo in 1959. And I know nothing else about this, but I've heard really good things about Barbara Kingsolver, especially some of her more recent releases like Demon Copperhead. Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I've never read Brandon Sanderson before. This would be my first experience with him, and I've heard this is a good jumping off point to see if you like his writing style before you start in on kind of some of the heftier series, because this is a standalone that kind of interconnects with the world of his other series, but not in a way where you have to have read them to understand it. And I know there's pirates in this, and it's a reverse Princess Bride. That's all I need. Next up, we have Oona Out of Order by Margarita Montimore. I know this one plays with time. A woman is kind of transported to different points in her life and, travels back and forth in time. I love a time travel story. I love stories that play with time in an interesting way, which I've heard this one does, and I've heard really good things. So, next up, okay, I have to admit something to you here. This is a cover purchase. I didn't even purchase this. This was a gift, but I requested it because of the cover. Look, like, can you focus? How do I make it focus? Look at it. It's so cool. 5 broken blades. I'm pretty sure. Let me see what I can remember without looking. I think that there are 5 assassins that are sent to kill someone, but then they end up having to work together. Yep, 5 dangerous liars. They're going to kill the God King. It doesn't say they work together. Oh, yeah, no, they do. They do have to work together for some reason. I'm excited about this one. I love the cover. That's it. That's why. The last one, this one's a little more intimidating, I feel. It is, again, one of the classics that is on the 100-book bucket list. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. This one's pretty chunky, and it's obviously translated Russian literature. And, okay, I read this one in high school. I think I maybe just read parts of it. I have no recollection. This is my book from high school. I remember, like, having this book in front of me and reading the words, but I don't remember what it was about or what they say. I know the main guy's name is Raskolnikov. I know nothing else. It's about crime and punishment. Okay, next. Ugh, stuck. These are getting really hard to hold up. Next up, first is, again, book bucket list, Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. I started reading this, couldn't tell you a thing about it. Really couldn't tell you anything about it. I was just not in the headspace to be able to comprehend it. But I do know that the author of this book recently put out a memoir, and he was stabbed. That's the extent of my knowledge here on this. But there's got to be something to it, because otherwise, why is it on the 100 books bucket list? So there you go. Next up, we have Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I have read from Ava Reid before, The Wolf and the Woodsman, and I really enjoyed that and thought it was really, really good. So this is a retelling of Macbeth from Lady Macbeth's perspective. That's all I need. I'm excited about that. I've read Macbeth. Also, I think we just need a moment. So first of all, the cover itself, dust jacket, very nice. But like, are you serious? Look at this. It's so stunning. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with this. So yeah, I'm very excited to read this one. Next up is Bridget Jones's Diary by Helen Fielding. This cover is so interesting. I found this at a used bookstore. It's Penguin Ink is the series. I'm assuming they did a bunch of like classic books with this cover on it. Like this style of kind of tattoo vibes. I think it's really cool. And this is also on the 100 books bucket list poster. I have never seen the movie Bridget Jones. It's a little bit before my time as far as appropriateness for me to watch, and I've just never gone back and watched it. So I am very curious about this and to see how I feel about the book, and then I would probably watch at least the first movie to get a sense of that as well. This is probably, the next one is the most intimidating on this entire list, and that is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, / potentially his wife, if you believe the rumors. There is evidence to suggest that his wife wrote a lot of this and not him, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. This is just giant, epic Russian story about war and peace. I mean, I have started this one as well. I did not get very far in it. Again, it was just not the right time for me to pick this up. And then now it's been so long since I've read the first part of this that I think I need to start it over again, unfortunately. So it's not that I didn't enjoy the writing style or didn't enjoy it. I just couldn't comprehend things. So when I say that about some of these books, the context is my son is not the greatest sleeper in the world. So starting very dense classic Russian literature while I was sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night, not the best move I've ever made. Not that things have gotten that much better, but fingers crossed they keep improving. And then the last one in this row is the only other space where there are 2 books, and that is The Subtle Knife and The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. These are the final 2 books in the Golden Compass, His Dark Materials is the series, but the Golden Compass is the first book. I've read this one. I didn't read it as a child. I read it recently because, again, it is on our 100 bucket list books poster, which I will put so you can see all of the books on there. But yeah, so I read this one. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it, but it's interesting enough world. They're easy to read because they're middle grade / young adult books. And so yeah, I just want to continue on and tick these 2 off at the same time because so much time has passed now between the first one and these ones. I really just need to knock them out together. We did start watching the HBO series that has come out, the new one with Lin-Manuel Miranda in it, and that's pretty good. So I would like to continue on watching that, but we're getting too far ahead of where I was in the books to keep watching it. So I like to read these 2 books and then continue that series. All right, and then final stack. This is actually kind of one of the more manageable looking stacks. Horizontal rows are going to be quite difficult to get a bingo, I think. So first up we have Wool by Hugh Howey. This is part of the Silo series, and I know that there is an adaptation of that on Apple TV. And I started listening to the audiobook of this one, and I got really pulled into it, but then my hold on the audiobook from Libby expired, and I decided I would rather read it physically, at least in part, because it was kind of a complex world and complex situation, and sometimes I have a harder time focusing when I'm just listening to audio. So this is a sci-fi dystopian where they all live in a silo, and they're told that they can't leave because they'll die and the air is polluted, etc., etc. And then a man has to leave, and we find out what happens. And that's all I know. And it sounds really interesting to me. I'm a big dystopian fan, so I think this will be right up my alley. I'm already smiling because it's We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I am obsessed with the Thursday Murder Club series by him, so it is only natural that I want to read everything he writes, and this is no exception. I believe this is about a father and daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law who team up together to solve murders, to solve mysteries. I know it's going to be great. I'm not even concerned about it. This is maybe the only kind of intimidating one in this stack. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. It's a classic on the poster to read. I'm curious about it. I have had this for a while. I want to say maybe I've tried to start reading it a couple times and I've just never gotten into it. I'm not the biggest Charles Dickens fan in general. I've only read, to be fair, I've only read A Tale of Two Cities by him, and I wasn't overly excited about that one. I'm hoping this one will hit me differently, but who's to say? Next up, this is possibly one of the ones that I'm most excited about. This is James by Percival Everett. This has been a hugely talked about one in 2024. It's won a bunch of awards, like I think it won National Book Award, Booker Prize, those kinds of things. And Percival Everett I have read from before. I read Erasure by him, and that book is that book is the inspiration for the movie American Fiction, which was nominated for an Academy Award in 2023. And so I loved that movie. I thought that movie was really excellently done. And the book is really excellently done as well, if not a little long-winded at parts. I think they cut it down really, really well and changed what they needed to change for the movie. But incredibly interesting writer. He's got a really fun satirical vibe with his writing. This is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from James's perspective, who is an escaped slave and who is traveling around with Huck Finn. I haven't decided whether, I think I probably will reread or read for the first time. Can't remember if I actually read it in high school. Huck Finn. I don't know if I'll reread that or not. In tandem with this, I might. I don't know. I've heard that you don't have to, and that this very much stands on its own. But it might be a good excuse to do it at the same time. So there's that. The last and final book to talk about, don't get mad at me, it's the movie tie-in cover. I got it secondhand. A Man Called Uwe. It was renamed A Man Called Otto, and they put Tom Hanks in there. By Frederick Bachman. I love Frederick Bachman. He's one of my favorite authors. This will probably make me sob my eyes out hysterically. That is the book bingo card. And my first video featuring one of these books should be out soon-ish. I've already started it. I've already randomly selected the first book on the card. So I'm excited to share that with you in the coming week or so, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping this video was a lot more brief than my almost hour-long diatribe about my best and worst books of 2024. Hopefully I kept this one moving a little more quickly. If you do watch this video and you do have a book that you have read and would like to see me read, or just that you really highly recommend off of this list, or that you disrecommend and that you think is terrible, please let me know. I would love to know. And like, subscribe, share, do all the things that you are supposed to do with YouTube videos. Again, no one's watching this, but if you are, I love you. Okay, bye.